It's been brought to my attention that a lot of you guys are still struggling to get creaseless, poreless, and airbrushed under eyes. So let me put you girls on to my under eye routine that literally leaves my eyes flawless every single time. Like I always say, skin prep and skincare is just as important as the makeup you use when you are trying to achieve a flawless base. So making sure your skin prep is perfection is the first thing that you want to be focusing on. For skin prep, I first like to start with the vitamin E enriched moisturizer. I got this from the UK, but there are a lot of other hydrating primer options. I do like to use a hydrating enriching primer just to add a little bit more moisture into my skin because I do have dry skin, and when we set that makeup we don't want it to become flaky. The second primer that I like to prime with is the Benefit Professional Primer. I just use a little bit of this and use it in the areas where I tend to have a lot more texture. So that would be sides of the nose, middle of the eyebrow, top of the lip, and chin. I know we just primed with a hydrating primer and now we're going with a mattifying primer. It's really confusing. But this primer isn't extremely drying and mattifying. It is more blurring. So I'm using the other primer to hydrate and this one to blur. I honestly use like a pea-sized amount, just that much. And that is all I'm going to use across my whole face. And I just tap it in, focusing again on the areas where I see a lot of textures. If you are struggling with your makeup and your under eyes separating, I think the first thing I would look into incorporating is maybe an under eye cream or a really good hydrating primer, because I find that my makeup usually peels on my under eyes when they're really dry. I do like to let my skin prep really absorb into the skin, so while that's absorbing I like to do my spot concealing and my eyebrows. I've just gone in with a little bit of foundation, and another really important tip that I always use is to avoid putting foundation right underneath your eyes. You don't want to drag down the area and you don't want there to be too much product there. And now it is time for concealer. I do tend to go a little bit heavy handed with concealer, but I do like to use thin layers and slowly build up the coverage rather than applying it all at once. You're just gonna let the concealer marinate a little bit on the face. That way when it dries down a little bit we can get more coverage out of our concealer. Concealer is beautifully blended out. I'm gonna finish the rest of cream products and then we're gonna get into how to set your face. Now onto the most important part, setting your face with powder. I stand the Yardley translucent powder and I will not use anything else, so I'm going to be using this today. And if you guys haven't tried this, I really recommend picking it up because it is truly one of the best. I'm just going to make sure that my creases are blended out. I'm going to go straight in with the loose powder, tap the excess onto the back of my hand and lightly set the under eye. And then we're going to do the same thing on the other side. And if you have any areas that are prone to creasing, cakiness, or just peeling, bake that shit. Bake it, trust me. I'm going to do the rest of my glam off camera and then come back to show you guys how it all looks in the